Hello, welcome to Hops and Monsters. This is going to be a weekly discussion. Myself and Ben. My name is Charlie Swanson.
And I'm Ben Shackelford.
And today we are drinking fresh squeezed IPA from Deschutes Brewery. We love it. It's delicious.
It's from Oregon, and everything from Oregon's good.
Except we are not from Oregon, unfortunately, so we are bad.
Hello, Portland!
We're going to do cult films. We're going to do music, comic books, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to be a couple beers in when we do it. And this is just
because it's no fun sober, let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Today we are starting our series with the films of John Carpenter.
Specifically Kurt Russell.
Yes. One of our favorite cinematic pairings, I would say.
Very much. They're great friends to this day. That's the awesome thing. Yeah.
And I think their camaraderie and their partnership really glows in a handful of movies. And we're going to do that. But Ben, let's talk about our history with John Carpenter movies. For me, I would say one of my favorite things to do ever is just to watch a John Carpenter movie. When did you start first?
When I was way young. I think, so I started with Dark Star. It's probably a film not a lot of people have seen.
You started with his very first film. His student film.
It was a student film that he started. It took 4 years to complete. He was already graduated from film school by the time it was done, but it took that long. It was numerous reshots and rewrites. But a studio, I picked it up and released it, and it's actually not a bad film. It's
actually pretty great. I watched it.
It's like Ghostbusters in space. The camaraderie that you had with Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, and the other two people I can't remember.
So when did you saw this as a kid or something?
Oh, yeah.
How did you see it?
I think I was like 8 years old, and that was right around when Showtime was out on cable, and we had this old plastic brown cable box, and I remember that there was a way to get Showtime for free if you punched in a code by holding 4 of the numbers down at once. And so I got really good at doing that as a kid and being able to watch Showtime whenever the hell I wanted. It was awesome, and Dark Star was always playing.
That's funny. Well, there you go. I feel like my early memories of John Carpenter movies probably come from The Thing, because I have a distinct memory of my babysitter watching a movie in which a monster ate a human being. And I think that was The Thing. So I can't confirm it, but that movie's definitely scarred on me for life.
Oh, my God. I still think it's one of the in the top 10 of greatest horror films of all time, and even though it was critically panned on its release.
Panned or just maybe not understood. It's one of those movies where I don't think the audience was ready for it.
No, not at all. Well, E.T. came out like within a couple months.
I think a couple months before it.
Yeah, and so everyone was into like, we're into happy aliens, and we don't understand this creepy
and it's not an obvious monster. It's not a guy in a suit. It's this bizarre, just otherworldly. Anyways,
and credit has to be given to Rob Bottin, the guy who created
Bottin, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, some kind of weird name. We'll get into that more. But I do love the Carpenter Kurt Russell connection. Which is going to be the focus of what we can talk about today. Apparently, I never saw this movie, but I've seen clips. They first collaborated on Elvis, a TV movie from 79, 80?
So John Carpenter actually did a film for television.
He did a couple, yeah,
really?
And this was one of them. He did one called Someone's Watching Me, and that one sounds pretty cool, too. This is right after he did Halloween, so... and Halloween we got to talk about because it's maybe the best. Is it the best horror movie or the scariest kind of
until
serial
Blair
killer?
Witch came out, it was the highest grossing horror film of all time.
Right. Because of it's so indie.
And
it's
the only reason
probably
that Blair Witch
$6,000
eclipsed it was because Blair Witch was so cheap to make, so it was able to gross way more.
Yeah, Blair Witch definitely had the internet. It was the first kind of movie that had the internet viral marketing, But Halloween, I mean, anyone who's a filmmaker, seems like every documentary I watch about horror movies, they say, I went and saw Halloween, and that made me want to make horror movies. And it's, it's one of those movies where the killer is silent, persistent, just a force of nature, and I love it. It's
which is really a theme in all of John Carpenter's films, because it seems like the main enemy, they don't ever have dialogue.
No one ever has dialogue. It's always the silent killer. And the remake kind of, I think, went too much into the story of who Michael Myers is and trying to figure this kid out. And it's like it's a force of nature. It's just pure evil coming back to this town. And I love the way he stalks and chases these kids around, and it's really cool. And you watch it now, and I think it holds up. And
yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, like John Carpenter, he says this about horror in general, is that it exposes all sorts of truths about the human condition. But what's ironic about the horror genre, and this is also a quote from him, is that no one seems to want to reinvent the genre.
right,
And he says that, it's like horror should be in the movies, and it should be about creatures or slashers or whatever, because there's enough horror in the world as it is, with like ISIS and the public beheadings and all this stuff happening, and we want to escape from that. And the horror genre, especially the way Carpenter approaches it, is really a way that you can escape into it. You could just, you take your girlfriend or your date to the movie, and you guys get scared and you cuddle together, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's the ultimate
it's an escape.
escapism, and that is something that follows throughout all his movies, definitely. So maybe not so much Elvis, the TV movie. I think that was pretty much a straight biopic
I'm gonna have to
from
see that
all
anyway, though.
signs. But the word on the street is that Kurt Russell was amazing in that movie, and Kurt Russell was a kid that grew up doing Disney movies,
Right. So he's a trained actor. It's like with those Disney films, you had to read the script exactly the way it was written, and if you missed one line, they cut the camera and they lost the shot.
And
you
his
had to
dad
do it
was an
again. You
actor.
could no improv
Yeah, he
whatsoever.
grew up on it. It was second nature to him.
So he's a seasoned actor at this point.
But he's a pretty boy, I think, is the thing that's kind of strange. He plays Elvis. He's this pretty guy, and then Carpenter convinces the studio to have him be Snake Plissken in Escape from New York. So if you've never seen Escape from New York, Manhattan is a giant prison. The president's plane crashes there. Snake Plissken, who's going to spend a life sentence in New York anyways, is given the task of getting the president out.
Now, did the thing happen before Escape from New York?
No, Escape from New York was first. The year before
okay.
the thing. This was their first action.
Yeah, they came out so close to each other.
fantasy
I
collaboration.
couldn't remember what
It's
came
all back
first.
to back. Yeah, it goes Elvis, it goes The Fog in 80, Escape from New York in 81, The Thing in 82, Christine in 83. He was just making movie after movie. He was in the prime at that point. So, but Escape from New York, I guess the thing I saw him talking about was that Kurt Russell was seen as such a pretty boy, a Hollywood Disney kid. So he had to convince the studio to let him play this loner, this anti-hero.
Sort of a Western type of character in a way.
Yeah, the lone gunman,
Like-
the stranger who comes
Right.
in and
John Carpenter was always
saves
talking about how
the day.
he wanted to really make a Western, but there was there was just no way to really reinvent the genre until he did. If you look at Escape from New York, it kind of is a Western.
Yeah, exactly.
The
It's
stranger rolling into town and being a badass and blowing everybody up.
Yep.
and
silent. He's again doesn't
He's got
talk
an
a
eye
lot.
patch.
Man, a few words.
Smokes American spirits.
Gets the job done. Yeah, Snake Plissken is one of the ultimate anti-hero, just badasses.
I mean, almost genre defining in a way. I mean, like Hideo Kojima, the guy who made the video game Metal Gear Solid,
Mhm.
completely.
Oh,
he
yeah.
admits he stole everything about Solid Snake
Yeah,
from Escape
down
from
to
New
the
York.
eye patch.
Yep.
Which was Kurt Russell's idea, apparently.
Yeah, and even
eye
the
patch.
cigarettes.
But yeah, the cigarettes, the time in the special ops and
Do
all
you
that
remember in that
history.
first Metal Gear Solid game, it's like you smoke cigarettes, you got your health back?
Right.
What the hell? How does that work?
Well,
in
yeah,
real
that's
life?
also the game where no one notices a box moving around. So,
right.
but yeah, I mean, I think you could look at someone like Jason Bourne is considered cool. The silent, the anyone who Jason Statham plays, it's like that silent, just get the job done, kick-ass guy. That's because Snake Plissken, he's really one of the first guys.
Oh yeah, he's
apparently Bronson was interested in that role. That's a very Charles Bronson-esque character.
Bronson was too old even at that time to pull.
Oh
that
yeah,
off.
no. Obviously they made the right call because it's maybe one of Kurt Russell's best roles.
Although I wonder what Harrison Ford would have done.
Yeah, well, I always think it would be
Or
cool.
Kurt Russell
Kurt
playing
Russell
Han
as
Solo.
well, Kurt Russell as Indiana Jones. I was going to say would be cool
Ooh,
because
yeah.
Kurt Russell will show
Although-
later on that he has the humor for Indiana Jones too.
But
I
later
think that'd be
on,
cool.
when they did Big Trouble in Little China, Kurt Russell specifically said that he modeled his character on basically a, quote, dumb John Wayne.
Of course he did. Yeah, you could tell he's got that draw for sure.
Well, it's just in the way that he was so slapstick about it. Like
Yeah.
he's getting all amped up, fires a gun into the ceiling, it's stone, so
Which is great because his
rocks fall off the ceiling, hit
he
him on the
could be
head,
such
and
a
he's passed out on the
serious
ground
guy.
while everyone's
Yeah.
fighting around him.
he could be such a serious actor and be in these very serious movies and then pull that off too. I love that. But I think what's great about Escape from New York is that it just holds up so well, and it just makes it's just, like I said, rewatchable. It's one of those where I could just pop it in anytime and enjoy the music. We got to talk about Carpenter's music, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's got one of the great theme songs, I guess, if you could say. I think Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13 is a great doom 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 doom. It's so cool, and that's just like that's one of those where I feel like it must have been the music before the movies. Like that seems like a guy who's been making music since he was a kid.
Oh yeah, no, but he got his start in music. In fact, his dad was a classical violinist.
Is that right?
Yeah. So music, he's been surrounded by music all his life.
Okay.
I don't know if he's a trained musician, but before he was making films, he was in a band that was touring around the Kentucky, North Carolina, Virginia areas and doing fairly well. And then he moved out to UCLA in 1968, started film school. And he always was continuing with the music. And in fact, when he recorded a lot of his great soundtrack scores were done. When the studio had budgeted time for him to go into the recording studio, to do voiceovers or whatever for the film, he would go in at night and he would use their gear. He would these old classic tube-driven analog synthesizers that were in the studio. He would just pound out themes for rather than hire someone else to do the music. He just did it himself.
That's perfect, and some of the most recognizable. themes
and also.
today.
When he was scoring Escape from New York, this was around the time when they had really basic VHS machines, and so he was able to score the music while watching dailies of the footage. So he was able to capture the right mood, and that was something that was unheard of before the 1980s. Yeah,
and every song kind of captures the mood of each movie. The Halloween theme, very scary, very do-do-do-do, very suspenseful. The Escape from New York theme is kind of heroic, kind of almost like not Captain America, but it's got kind of that positive, like uplifting, like let's do this kind of vibe. It's still
kind of dark, but it's
dark.
To get back to Halloween real quick, though,
yeah.
the whole he was influenced to record the actual piano part he's playing, synthesizer part. It's in 5/8, which his dad taught him how to play on the bongos. And it's now become the most synonymous thing you hear when you think of a horror soundtrack is the soundtrack to Halloween.
Absolutely. And now I think that's why any horror film has that synthesizer sound to it, has that vibe
that
to
old warm analog sound, and that
so warm.
There's this band I really love called Zombie. You like them too, I think.
Absolutely.
And their entire influence.
Zombie with just the I, right? At the end?
Yep.
Is that?
Yep.
Yeah. Zombie.
Great band. You should all check them out. Every one of their records is awesome.
And I mean, if you listen to, or if you saw Stranger Things, you heard that soundtrack. That's a total Carpenter soundtrack.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell that if they were going to make a show like that, they had to have Carpenter kind of sounds on that soundtrack.
They nailed it pretty good on that one.
They took every 80s cliche
Survive
movie.
Is that band. There's a particular band, and then now they're touring, and we wish you the best, Survive. As we do all synthesizer bands, we wish them the best.
John Carpenter has also got a couple albums out called Lost Themes 1 and 2, which he recorded with his son.
Very
recently.
Yeah. He's on tour, I think.
He's touring. He's even playing in Sweden or...
He's over in Europe right now, I think.
Yeah.
And they're great. And they have the same fun, mysterious, otherworldly, kind of hypnotic vibe that the themes you hear in his movies have.
Now, he does have one turkey in his repertoire.
Well, we might as well just get that out of the way. The Big Trouble
in Little China.
That theme song's pretty bad, and I couldn't believe that was actually him.
That just
and the music video for it's just amazingly bad.
It pretty much represents everything that's really bad about early '80s new wave music. He put into that song, and
yeah,
it stands as a testament to how bad that music can really get at that time.
I know. Anyways, let's see. Escape from New York. Anything else we want to talk about that? It's it's one of those where it's a great visual story, and I think the theme that I wanted to talk about with these Carpenter movies is that they don't have to explain everything to you. You don't have to have this guy just exposing all this dialogue, telling you everything that's happening. Snake Plissken shows up in handcuffs. He's just given this assignment. He goes in, and it happens. There's, you just get right to the action. And you're on board, like, immediately. You know exactly what's going on.
There was a reason for that. There was supposed to be, like, a 5 to 10 minute opening sequence about him robbing the Federal Reserve and explaining how he got...
Yeah, I saw that on,
And John Carpenter himself says he made the mistake of showing the final print to his friends before it was released. And they said, it takes too long for him to start getting into New York. So what's with all this stuff in the beginning?
Oh, cool.
He decided to cut that, and... that's a shame because I feel like it would have made the depth of the character much more relevant.
Maybe. I don't know. They kind of there's that scene where he's talking to the guy at the prison and he says, well, life sentence for this. That's kind of all you need. I get that. It's like I said, it's it would have been cool to have, for a fan like me, for a fan like you, it would be great to just have as much as possible.
Right. I happen to love the extended editions of films.
But you got to remember too, it's like 1980. Like movies,
it's more character development.
Movies are basically 90 minutes. You got to get in and out with
especially
these
at that time.
Yeah,
you couldn't have it over 90 minutes. No one would stand for
Nobody
that.
was making 2.5-hour movies like they are now, which I cannot. I'm
having
a hard time with it, man. I'm really. There's been a lot of movies I want to go see, and I'm just like, wow, this thing's like 2 hours and 40 minutes. I just can't.
Yeah, in the theater, it's too much. But what I do like is I like seeing the initial cut down version in the theater, and then when I buy the DVD or Blu-ray later, then I like the extended edition with all the stuff they cut, put back into the film, because it adds so much more rich character development.
Yeah. But I just love, like, when you see and a lot of horror movies still do this. They just, like, it comes out as, like, 88 minutes. You're like, perfect. I love it.
Yeah. It's like...
I'll do that all day.
Right on, man. I got in here with my popcorn. I'm done with my drink, and now I got to pee, so it's right on time.
And that's Escape from New York, man. The plane crashes. He has to get in there, and the action goes right off the bat. And I love all the characters in it. I love the Duke is
Isaac
perfect.
Hayes, my God.
Classic. Isaac Hayes. Great
His
cast. Harry Dean Stan's in this thing.
Scout Park.
Ernest Borgnine almost steals it as
taxi
the taxi
driver. Yeah,
oh, he's great.
When he throws that Molotov cocktail out of the top of his
it's perfect
cab, he's like, "Yeah, that's a waste of a good bottle of vodka, but that's what you got to do around here.
This thing's gold around here or something." Yeah, it's because Snake is such a almost dour, like he's just so serious that you need Borgnine in there, kind of animated.
He was definitely the comedy relief.
Yeah,
and I can tell that
it worked.
We have to touch on Escape from Los Angeles for just a little bit here and how awful it kind of was, but Steve Buscemi's character was sort of he was Ernest Borgnine's character in Escape from Los Angeles,
trying to take that on, but then he was a double crosser, and it's like you can't trust him. He's no longer comic relief. He's just this worm.
Ultimately, it kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like Escape from Los Angeles was literally every Los Angeles cliche about a movie squeezed in. You had to have a character who was a surfer.
Yeah.
You had to have Steve Buscemi's character who's got the map to the stars.
The scene where he's got to like play basketball to save his life. It's
because
like,
Lakers.
It's like... So Escape from New York, you're fighting this giant 7-foot-tall like wrestler with spiked clubs and trash can lids, and then you take
full on Beyond Thunderdome.
So your LA version of that is you got to make 5 shots in a row. I don't know,
10 shots
basketball?
and a 10-second shot clock.
Yeah, and it's only a 10-second shot clock. Oh.
When has you ever seen Snake be good at basketball of all things?
Well, he's good at everything, obviously.
Yeah, I guess he can do it. Everything's just super easy for him.
So beautiful. He gets served.
He's the only guy who was able to walk off that court.
Yeah, he walked off the court, and then he surfed a tsunami about 20 minutes later. And
that always happens. He's never surfed before, but suddenly he's able to surf a tsunami.
Absolutely. Well, you better in the post-apocalyptic.
And to me, that's just sloppy writing. You know,
it's just cashing in on everything.
Every
without worrying
tired
about, like,
Hollywood cliche you
Yeah,
can come up with,
I know.
and it's like, come on, are you trying to remake Point Break?
Well, they even made him like take off the leather jacket and put on the black stealth like.
Yeah, the fireproof suit. That's why he
Yeah.
didn't blow up at the end.
So
Because,
90s.
come on.
It's like now he looks like Neo
Except
from the Matrix
none of his
with the
hair
big coat.
ever goes up
He's
on
got the big
fire.
leather
He's
jacket.
got the perfect hair.
Yeah, of course. Well, he looks good.
His eye patch didn't even light up.
Also, yeah, riding a motorcycle with an eye patch probably pretty hard. I feel like.
Yeah,
no
you need that depth perception, right?
Come on, New York, L.A. No,
I mean,
good.
it looks badass, but
It looks badass.
it's not very practical. And I feel like, these are things they could have addressed.
So Escape from New York, I feel like believable at least.
However, I do like that one plastic surgery scene
That
where
was
the guy's
so
like,
weird.
"Wow, such a pretty blue eye. Too bad there's only one."
Yeah, better
Okay,
than
I like
none.
that they fit in the eye patch joke there. That's
Oh,
good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's our little commentary on Beverly Hills, man. Plastic surgery's messed up, dude.
I mean, they have to have gangbangers and lowriders. Those are the enemies. It's
Exactly.
like you couldn't get anything more original.
And in Escape from New York, they're just all kinds of crazy people. That's what I love. It's like obviously a society left on its own for 11 years, walled off, and they're just dressed up like the warriors. Basically, they're scraps of clothes. There's the one guy with the straight up hair. There's all the French no, that's LA, but there's like the girl in the diner, and everyone's just got this
that's
weird,
something
like,
to mention about. Okay, so like every woman in Escape from Los Angeles is dressed like a hooker.
yes,
Like that's the only way they can survive.
that's probably
there.
what's going on there. Yeah, you read into it pretty well.
Once again, I just feel like that's kind of sloppy filmmaking, sloppy writing.
Yeah, but let's see what else we got. Escape from New York, love it. See that one. That's the one that's right for remake. You know what I mean? That's out of
Yes,
all
and
his
we talked about
movies.
that.
Yeah, out of all his movies, you've got Halloween, The Fog. You've got
Halloween's already been remade.
Halloween's been remade. The Fog's
Pretty well
been
done
remade.
version, I've got to say, I'm impressed by it.
The Thing had a remake, but
It had
Escape from
a,
New York, I think, is the one where you could really do it.
So the remake of The Thing was actually supposed to be a prequel.
Yeah, I guess, but it's the same thing. I mean,
I've heard it's
same
garbage. I
thing.
won't even watch it. It's all CGI.
It's the same. I mean, it's the same. Like, a bunch of not Norwegian-looking but very American-sounding people discover a thing in the ice, and it infects them all. And it's the same movie. So I love that when they do that. It's a prequel, but it's the same movie. You know what's going on here. So let's go on to The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. Excuse me. Full title. A remake of a 50s movie or 60s movie.
It was a movie he wasn't even interested in remaking.
Yeah.
But damn, I'm just speechless.
It's the one time when the
And what he's
remake
able to
actually
accomplish with it.
expands on the original concept because,
I almost wish that there was no first version of The Thing, and this was the definitive thing.
Well, let's call it, this is the definitive, The Thing. This is John Carpenter's The Thing. This is the one everyone thinks of when they think of The Thing. No one's talking about the 1950s version.
Yeah, because it's some stupid dude in a rubber suit. It's
Exactly.
mostly a sci-fi film.
And that's the furthest thing from this movie, the guy in a suit.
because this is
You're not going to
straight
see a
up
guy in
horror.
a suit. You're going to see crazy effects. And The Thing is, like I said earlier, it's the one that really just sears itself into your memory and just scars you for life.
When I saw it as a kid, even my dad was talking about it. He just could not believe the end of the movie when Kurt Russell and that other guy are just sitting in the snow going, well, what's going to happen next? I don't know. Let's just sit here for a while and figure it out. It's like they've burnt down their outpost. They've got no heat, no energy, no way to escape. They're
Yeah.
nothing but the cold, and one of them's an alien, and you don't know who.
The Thing is a very serious, very scary movie. So scary.
Basically,
Where-
the premise of Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, where a bunch of guys are in the Arctic. They come across this alien being that infects you on a
Who's been
cellular,
there for 100,000 years.
like a
old,
cellular level.
frozen in the ice.
And it takes your body over and it morphs you into a version of itself as it needs to, and it's super gross. It's totally gross. People's bodies open up and heads open up into giant mouths.
Yeah, it's like a big mashup of
things you've
three
never
different animals.
and it's one of those like things you would
And
never think that would be possible
it can
to show on
rearrange
film.
it cellularly on a cellular level.
Yeah, and it takes you over. So I think one of the big questions is like, do you even know you're the Thing when the Thing takes you over? I don't think you do. I think you have no idea on a mental, like conscious level that you're infected.
That's interesting. You never really get the sense of knowing that, even when there's an infected person on the base, you don't know whether they even know
exactly
that they're just a part of this thing's cellular mechanism.
Everyone's innocent until the moment that the thing that's inside you has to react to a danger, or it's one of those where it always ends up reacting to stimulus.
Yes, because ultimately it's trying to survive, and it knows that the best way to survive is to blend in. So it doesn't want to be found.
Yeah, until it can't anymore, and then it tries to transfer itself to another host, basically.
Right.
And again, it's one of those where you almost think like this is an alien that, on a cellular level, each cell is almost autonomous, like it's able to do its own thing.
And able to rearrange its DNA at whim.
And it's able to leave every other cell behind. It doesn't care about the whole being. That cell needs to keep going, and it'll do so.
As long as there's one cell of this creature left, it's not dead.
Yeah, that's the craziest part. So what happens is a dog infected with the thing, picked up from a different camp, comes over to this American camp, infects all the dogs, which infects some of the people.
Beautiful looking dog, by the way. I love huskies.
Oh yeah, and they're cool. They're very cool dogs to see in the movie walking around. They're very
you
majestic.
can tell they've
got
call them
wolf
majestic.
Genes. I love those.
They just look like wolves.
Those wolves. And the cast is great. It's a very ensemble cast with, again, Kurt Russell leading the way as MacReady. And he's still got the big, he's got an even bigger, bushier beard in this one, and the long hair, and the great hat. How great is that hat that he wears?
What's up with that hat? what is he?
I heard that whoever was his stand-in wore that hat. It was like they shot all the second unit like far away shots of him first. So this extra who played him basically wore that hat, and so they had to give it to him.
He looks like a Confederate criminal or something.
Yeah, it's totally. Yeah, exactly. It's like some sort of. He looks like he should be in Tennessee or something with that hat. It's like this big cowboy thing, and he's out in the snow. He's a helicopter pilot flying around in the big drifts of snow. Got a little flask or something going on there.
Hey, that's how you stay warm, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna
light
need to
that
stay
internal
warm
fire.
with a couple
it's
more
about
beers
time
here, right?
for beer number 3.
Let's take a break, and we'll come back with more of John Carpenter, Kurt Russell movies. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. I love that song. Oh, yeah.
That group is called Yellow.
Mm.
You might recognize that from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a movie that we will talk about
someday.
Eventually.
And there was some Michael J. Fox movie I saw it in too, like, what's the one, maybe Doc Hollywood, or was he in Greed, or what was the one where he's like other people's money, or no, not that.
Big
some
City
late
Lights?
80s, like where Michael J. Fox is a con man.
Big City Lights.
Boom, boom. You're listening to Hops and Monsters. I'm Charlie Swanson.
I'm Ben Shackelford.
We're coming back, and we're talking about John Carpenter, one of our favorite directors, and Kurt Russell, one of our favorite actors, and we are drinking a couple of beers from Deschutes, the fresh squeezed IPA. I've been obsessed with this beer for about a year now.
So good. It's one of the best beers I've ever had in my life.
It's an IPA, but it's light. It's tasty. It's kind of sweet. I mean, but not too sweet, you know?
It has this lingering aftertaste that just gets mellower the longer it's on your tongue.
Yeah, it's mellow.
It doesn't get harsh. It just mellows out. It's really nice. It's expensive.
God bless you, Deschutes.
I mean, it's over $10 a 6-pack. But
and, if you ever want to throw us a case, hopsandmonsters@gmail.com.
Because over $10 a 6-pack.
Yeah, these are not cheap, but they're totally worth it, and we love them, and I buy them pretty much on a weekly basis. Deschutes, fresh squeezed IPA. Hopsandmonsters@gmail.com. Drop us a line, and we'll let you sponsor us. That goes for all you breweries out there. So anyways, we're talking about John Carpenter. Was that an ad? Did I just do a fake ad?
It was a plug.
It was a good ad. Plug, yeah. We're plugging beer. We're nerds, and we're talking about our favorite things. Today is John Carpenter.
This is uninhibited nerdery.
Yes.
Focusing on
It's getting more
monsters,
uninhibited by the
sci-fi.
minute. That's what I love.
good beer, and good friends.
Good beer, good times, good movies. We're talking about The Thing. What's your favorite transformation scene? Go.
The head, for sure.
Coming off the body.
Yep. And when that one unnamed cast member goes, "You got to be fucking kidding me."
That's the line of the movie, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because that's exactly what you would say if you saw that shit happen. Right?
Yeah, I think if you saw a dude's chest open up and there were like teeth, and they bit another dude's arms off,
and you cut off somebody's head and it sprouted spider legs and started walking away from you.
That's what I love. It's like Botine's
who the
designs,
hell came up with this?
It's like you could just do anything. It's like I can't imagine what it must have been like seeing this like on the page and being like, we're gonna do what? Like, are you kidding me?
I don't even know if this stuff was even in the script. They just
like
let
that.
him run wild. In fact, he lived on the set for a year and a half.
Yeah,
he just never went home.
He was like 21, 22.
Yeah, he was
a
the
kid.
ultimate John Carpenter fanboy.
Yeah, he was this fanboy. He gets his chance. Good, fanboy makes good. I love that.
Yeah. And
crazy.
Carpenter, every time you interview Carpenter about this film, he gives so much props and so much credit to Rob Bottin.
Yeah.
And he absolutely deserves it.
Everyone does. Stan Winston did a thing on it, but yeah, in that interview we saw with him, he's just like, this is Rob's movie. God bless him.
And Rob's secret, 5-gallon pails of KY jelly. That is
so much jelly.
That's what makes those creatures glisten so much.
I mean,
I didn't even know you could buy 5-gallon pails of that stuff.
If you're John Carpenter, you can. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's a way. When there's a will, there's a way. You get that jelly. I think my favorite was probably after the blood test and the one guy goes crazy and the eyes bulge out.
Oh, when they stick the heated piece of metal in the blood?
Yeah, the blood test. And, it was funny. I was listening to an interview, and I always kind of thought this, because this movie is like 82, I always found a parallel with like AIDS and this movie because it was such a mysterious thing. And Carpenter talked about that in an interview I saw where it wasn't influenced by that, but it kind of paralleled that that discovery of AIDS in the 80s. And you didn't know who had it, and you did blood tests to find out. And it's kind of strange that the way that paralleled real life. And I think a lot of Carpenter's stuff parallels real life emotion, even if it's on a fantasy level. The early 80s, there was a lot of crime in New York, and I think Escape from New York reflects that. There's a lot of this concern over AIDS and paranoia in the world in general. There was, I don't know. I mean, I was a baby during the early 80s, but there was Iran hostages. There was, it was not a happy-go-lucky time like Oinga Boinga might make you think. But yeah, so I think a lot of his movies touch on that, and that's kind of why they get inside of you a little bit, because there is something deeper going on than just a monster movie.
Oh yeah, so many of John Carpenter's films are so much. They're so more about the story than anything else. I mean, they're.
And the overall story, it's a social story.
Yes,
I mean, even
that's what I was trying to say.
This is a comment.
I still
on,
haven't seen that, by the way.
Capitalism or whatever. It's like these aliens trying to take people over subliminally. Well, that's advertising, and that's sometimes even the Hollywood system itself. So I think a lot of his movies
that's why he didn't
just tap into something there that's uncommon.
During the 90s, Carpenter tried to he tried to avoid studio intervention as much as possible and try to get funding on his own.
Yeah.
I mean, so a lot of his movies, the production kind of struggled.
I get the sense that making movies is kind of difficult. And
he asked for absolute creative control, and a lot of studios are not willing to give that, even today, or if I don't know if they've ever.
Well, Big Trouble in Little China was a major studio effort, and they gave him a big budget, and it bombed, and that's what kind of got him to go away.
That's going to make him. That's going to make it even harder for him to get funding for his next film.
Yeah,
and a lot of his output during the 90s is sort of low budget looking compared to what he did before.
Well, that's also because CGI was just not there in the 90s. I mean, it was people like in Escape from LA, it's like that scene where he's surfing a tsunami. God.
It's the most awful CGI I've ever seen.
Like green screen, and it's like
I hate to even talk about it.
I bet in 1996 that looked like awesome. I bet people were like, dude, that is legit right there. And then you look at it 20 years later. What are we, 2016? 20 years later. That movie came out. Escape from LA came out 20 years ago.
Yeah. And it's still dated. It was dated
And it
then,
looks really
and it's
dated.
still
Yeah,
dated
and it looks
now
dated.
because the
But-
story takes place in 2013,
But
and that's 3 years
you look at
ago.
Escape from New York. It's all real. It's all on that film. You know, there's some matte paintings and stuff, but the set is real. That's a real fire. You know, that's a real.
Yeah,
And
I guess they filmed it in
uh,
St. Louis, and they got permission from the city to actually
Yeah.
turn off power for whole city blocks while they were
Yeah,
following.
they found some burnt out. Like there was a huge.
There
fire
was
in
a
St.
huge
Louis.
fire in St. Louis at the time,
So
and they
there's
were
this
able to
big-
use that
yeah.
on the set.
It's crazy, and it looks. I think it holds up because of that realism. Where
Yeah, Escape from New York
LA, and
looks
just
very
movies,
real.
Movies in the '90s. I mean, just so many of those movies. Just, I mean, look back at like Independence Day and the ships and the whole city blew up. Like, no, it's just really bad, like lava-looking explosion effects. Like it's just.
I wonder
it
if
doesn't
we're
work.
going to look back at Independence Day one day and go, you know
I-
what?
I
That
wonder if
movie
we're-
sucked when
end
it
of
came out, but
sentence.
it's awesome now.
I wonder if we're ever going to look back on Independence
Yeah,
Day.
probably not.
No, I never saw the new one.
Yeah, there's a
Couldn't
new
care
one
less.
out, right?
Could not care less.
I don't care.
I don't care. Anyways, but I guess we got to talk. I want to talk a little more about Big Trouble, just because I think that's one of those great cult films that had no audience when it started.
Oh, I loved it when it first came out.
Well, okay, but yeah, you loved it. Was there anyone in the theater? How many people in the theater?
I didn't
when
see
you
it in
went
the
and saw
theater. I saw it on
nobody saw
VHS,
I
and
think
it
that's what happened.
was one of my favorite movies around that time. I mean,
And you know, it's funny. Yeah, he does. Carpenter comes around the same time that VHS and home entertainment and seeing movies at home comes around. Like,
yeah, that was the rise of the blockbuster
So,
empire.
so a movie
Can you
like The
believe they
Thing
had a chance
doesn't-
to buy Netflix and they
Yeah.
passed? My God.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I know. But I don't think The Thing finds an audience without home video or Showtime or HBO.
Right. No,
coming
that's
along in the
when it
80s.
finally started getting a following.
Yeah.
It was universally panned when it was by the critics in the theater.
Yeah, too violent.
10 years later, 15 years later, it's on most people's top 10 list if you're a horror film fan.
Yeah, I would say so. And if it's not,
And even in
we
film
need
in
to have a
general,
conversation
because
about
it's
why not.
so
Like, what's the
effective.
problem? Yeah, the effects
in
are
its
so great.
presentation.
And really, you know, The Thing again. We keep going back to it. It's just perfectly paranoia tinged suspense. I mean, there's so much gore, but there's so much suspense, and I think those things. The balance of those is really hard because you either have too much gore or there's nothing happening because everyone's waiting to see what's under the table. But The Thing is just a perfect mix of. You don't know
It
who
really is.
You don't know if one guy's going to turn on the other guy, but then when it does happen, oh my god, it happens, and
It's like the
people
ultimate
explode.
sci-fi murder mystery.
yeah, I love it. So
It's like the thing in the ballroom with the candlestick. You know, you don't know
yeah,
what.
yeah, absolutely, it could go either way, and it always surprises you. But Big Trouble in Little China. This is kind of the last one we want to talk about because it's a very different kind of Carpenter movie. It's almost
It's very
silly.
slapstick.
It's maybe trying to be a little bit more mainstream. Maybe it's trying to be not a family movie, but one where, you know, people will actually sit through it without being disgusted and horrified like they would be through The Thing. Didn't do well at the box office. Found an audience afterwards. I think Kurt Russell, who plays Jack Burton, our truck driving hero, every man, you know, not a badass like he is Snake Plissken, not a Vietnam vet like he is. He might be, but not a serious, morose guy like he is in The Thing. He's a comedian.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, it's like you said earlier. He's literally playing a dumb version of John Wayne.
Yeah. Exactly. With the listen here a little later kind of stuff in between. He's got some great one-liners, but let's see. Do we do? I guess a plot summary real quick. He shows up in San Francisco. He's driving a truck, drives it from the north side of the Golden Gate into the city. So obviously he's been driving through Sonoma County at the beginning of that movie. Not too
And if
shabby.
he were doing that today,
We
he
live in
surely
Sonoma
would
County.
have stopped off at Lagunitas or Redwood Brewing,
exactly. If he was around then.
Russian River Brewery.
But
They had some great beer.
you know, the thing about that movie is so funny to me when you watch it kind of a couple times. You realize those people are up without sleeping for like 4 days, and I don't know what happens
And
off
drinking
camera.
the entire time.
They're yeah.
You never see him eating,
He
but you
gets
see him
in
drinking.
to San Francisco in the middle of the night, stays up all night drinking with his friends in Chinatown,
Gambling.
gambling, wins all the money. His friend can't break the bottle in half, so he wins double or nothing. So his friend owes him money, but first I got to go to the airport and get a thing.
Pick up his girlfriend.
He picks up his girlfriend.
Not the thing, his
The
girlfriend.
green-eyed beauty from Asia,
Which is
who's
apparently
his girlfriend.
rare.
So the friend is Asian. It's in Chinatown. She gets kidnapped. It goes through this whole thing. They don't sleep for 4 days. It's crazy. It's like, what's going on, guys? Huh?
There's nothing realistic
Early 80s,
about the movie
mid-80s,
at all.
What's going on? I know
But it's a trip into Fantasyland.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
funny.
It's almost
it's
like
great.
a bad dream.
It's and it
whole
gets
movie feels
weirder
like a
and
bad
weirder.
dream.
That's why I love it. It just gets weirder and weirder and weirder, and then an hour in, you're like, this is pretty strange. And then like a monster shows up, like a full-fledged robotic, kind of like hairy,
isn't there a thing that comes out of a cave
Bigfoot
and just
monster.
swallows one of his one of the
some
dudes?
bug shows up, just swallows the guy. It's like, this is so weird. It's just, you just get deeper and
And
deeper.
Kurt
into
Russell's reaction is just like, "Holy shit! Holy shit! What was that?"
it. Yeah.
Like what you would do. You know, if you were in
I know
his
it feels
shoes.
very natural. The scene where they escape from that building and they're diving through the sewer and they pop up and he kisses Kim Cattrall, who's the girl, and sorry, I'm just thrilled to be alive. He's just thrilled to be alive. I love that. So funny, so real, and but it's a damsel in distress kind of a thing, and they rescue her, and it's Chinatown, baby.
Chinatown.
Forget it. It's Chinatown. That's how they felt in the 70s. But in the 80s, no, you go get that girl. You go do it. I love it. I love the movie. Again, I watch it quite often. I don't know. I've seen it a dozen times.
I like how it was. I grew up watching a lot of Bruce Lee films and Shaw Brothers productions and stuff, and it was like an 80s version of all of that.
It was. It was John
all
Carpenter's
rolled up
Kung
into
Fu
one
movie.
Yeah,
for all
exactly. And those
yeah.
definitely have a place.
Yeah, I like it. A lot of people who liked it as a kid have a real soft spot for it, I think, is what happens. It's kind of like
I
Goonies.
loved it as a kid.
It's like if you watch Goonies for the first time when you're 35, you're like, this is what is happening. But if you've seen it as a kid, you have that nostalgia, you have that fondness for it.
See, that's what I thought Stranger Things was. It was Goonies wrapped up with Poltergeist, wrapped up with X-Files,
Yeah.
with John Carpenter directing it all.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good example. And I love that.
And recording the soundtrack.
And I'm obsessed with Stranger Things as well. We'll do an episode on that, too, because I got some theories to work out with you. But
Are they making a second season of that? Do you know?
They are. I believe they are. I think they're going to have it's going to be a continuation of the same story. Some new characters will come in, but I think it's on.
So I guess, because we're on the topic of Stranger Things, I might as well mention that Winona Ryder grew up down the street from me in Petaluma.
There you go.
I went to school with her. I didn't actually see her. She was not ever attending high school because she was always off filming.
Well, yeah, she was making movies.
Doing a film, but
was...
we were in the same grade together in 1986.
Oh.
And
is she in the yearbook? Do you have a yearbook?
No, I don't have a yearbook.
Oh.
I was a sophomore.
Oh, okay.
I think we're the same age.
Okay.
And it was also around at that same year, they were also filming a movie starring Ethan Hawke, a young Ethan Hawke, called Explorers, with a young River Phoenix, also filmed in Petaluma.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you may remember that. It's very Goonies.
I do remember that.
Goonies-ish.
This is going to get really hyper local, but the fair just had their fair this last summer. The Sonoma County Fair had a whole flower exhibit of movies filmed in Sonoma County, and they had a whole Explorers exhibit. And I was like, why is this movie part of this exhibit?
It's filmed in Petaluma.
Peggy Sue Got Married, they had, or American Graffiti, they had Shadow of a Doubt, and then it's like Explorers, and I'm like, some 80s, I guess they had to fill it out, but filmed up here, I had no idea.
Yeah,
Thank you.
In fact, I take my dog Scout, an Alaskan Malamute, part wolf. I take her for a walk on the hill almost every night, where there was a big scene in Explorers was filmed.
That's
and
cool.
I always think about that when I'm walking around up there.
We should do a whole episode of movies filmed around here. We're in the North Bay, folks.
Absolutely.
Now you know.
I mean, we got to start it off with some Hitchcock, some birds action.
We got to talk Coppola. We got to talk George Lucas. All right, anyways, if you haven't seen any of these movies we've been talking about, go see them. We've spoiled them all. They're a lot of fun. Go see any John Carpenter movie, honestly, especially from the 80s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah, you can just forget the 90s.
Unless you're a diehard. We're going to do a whole 90s episode because I want to talk about Village of the Damned. I want to talk about, I kind of want to, I guess I don't. I don't really need to talk
Ghosts
about
of
Escape
Mars?
from L.A. anymore, but yeah, Ghosts of Mars.
Vampires with
The
James
Ice
Woods.
Cube John Carpenter team up that we've all been waiting for. Yeah, John Carpenter's Vampires. Not too shabby. Anyways, this has been Hops and Monsters. I've been Charlie Swanson.
And I'm Ben Shackelford.
And this has been Nerdery Without Inhibitions. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. And visit us at, we have a Facebook page, Hops and Monsters. We have a Twitter. Just type in Hops and Monsters.
Yeah.
That's us.
We'll be the only thing that comes up.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. We'll talk about something fun. We'll have some beers. And good night.
Good night.